They are a family in mourning, grieving the loss of a husband, father and grandfather, stepping in where the Duke would once have been supporting the monarch. The first official public tribute coming from his eldest son.
I particularly wanted to say that my father, I suppose the last 70 years, has given the most remarkable, devoted service to the Queen, to my family, and to the country, and also to the whole of the Commonwealth. And as you can imagine, my family and I miss my father enormously. He was a much-loved and appreciated figure. And apart from anything else, I can imagine, and we're so deeply touched by the number of other people here and elsewhere around the world in the Commonwealth who also, I think, share our loss and our sorrow. And my dear papa was a very special person who, I think, above all else, would have been amazed by the reaction and the touching things that have been said about him. And from that point of view, we are, my family, deeply grateful for all that. It will sustain us in this particular loss and at this particularly sad time. Thank you. Thank you.
As the crowds gathered outside Windsor Castle where he died on Friday morning, other family members were visiting the Queen. Their son, Prince Andrew, driving himself past the well-wishers. In a separate car, Prince Edward and the Counts of Wessex drove slowly, thanking those who'd come to pay their respects. Sophie, with tears in her eyes, telling us Her Majesty was doing okay. He never wanted the pomp and ceremony that his national service meant he was entitled to. In the end, the pandemic, the reason his funeral plans have been significantly scaled back. The funeral will take place at Windsor Castle next Saturday at 3 o'clock. There'll be no public access or public processions, and the event will be within the current COVID guidelines, but still very much reflect the personal wishes of the Duke. There will be a national minute silence at 3 o'clock. We are still waiting for the full guest list, but his children and grandchildren are expected to attend, including the Duke of Sussex. But Meghan, who's expecting her second child, will not because of doctor's advice. In the procession from the castle to St George's Chapel, his coffin will be moved inside a specially modified Land Rover. There has been this spontaneous gathering here in Windsor with people wanting to bring flowers and pay their respects. And in some ways that is difficult for the royal family. They don't want to be seen to be encouraging people to gather in crowds during the pandemic. But they also acknowledge that there are members of the public who want to share in their moment of grief. And that's why they're encouraging everyone to watch the funeral on television rather than come here in person. In recent years, since he retired, the Queen's official duties meant they had to spend time apart, the pandemic bringing them back together at Windsor. A no-nonsense couple of that wartime generation, it is still inevitable that many will wonder how she'll cope after losing her life partner.
The Queen is very resilient by nature, and she has a very strong religious faith, so I think that is all a help in this time when obviously it's a time of grief as well as of accepting this new situation. But it's one that I think the Queen would have anticipated and would be coping with.
The family have always described themselves as her supporting cast. Their comfort never needed more as they prepared to give the Duke of Edinburgh a fitting farewell. Rhiannon Mills, Sky News, at Windsor Castle.